Hey all you cats and chicks out there, welcome back to Control Players Unite. I am your host, Dr. Red. Today we are presenting what pairs best with Froslass, the one from Twilight Masquerade. Froslass is a Stage 1, 90 HP Pokemon that has the Freezing Curtain ability. It reads, during Pokemon Checkup, put 1 damage counter on each Pokemon in play with an ability, both yours and your opponent's, except any Froslass. We will present 15 Pokemon and 5 trainers. But first, we will go over some strategy. Please note, ladies and gentlemen, that Control Players Unite is fully aware that Froslass could pair well with any non-ability Pokemon. This video serves to give you a taste of what you can do with your own decks, and obviously will not cover every single possibility. There will even be a few Pokemon with abilities because the benefits outweigh the detriments. As for the strategy, the number one problem I'm finding with Froslass is that it needs decent bench space. 2 to 3, rarely 4 unless you want to push the envelope. You could think of it as Bibarel though, a Stage 1 with an ability, and so you can't use Salvatore, and that sometimes players have 2 Bibarels in play, so it really isn't any different in that regard. And because the damage counters are between turns and not strictly after yours or your opponent's alone, the damage adds up quickly. Another problem is self-inflicted wounds with one's own ability Pokemon, but that can be mitigated by a flat-out good strategy on behalf of the pilot, like the use of healing cards. The overall strategy appears the same for most archetypes. Set up Froslass and let it do its thing, while you energize something else to take KOs and or control your opponent like you normally would. So there's a lot of room for experimentation. Like with this Abomasnow, it has the ability Freezing Disaster. Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's, can't be healed. If you pair it with something like Serena EX with the Icicle Soul attack, which states that you can put damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon until its remaining HP is 30, you're going to give your opponent a really hard time. You can also pair it with Claydol, Kaboom Doll. Put damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon until its remaining HP is 10. If you place any damage counters in this way, this attack also does 120 damage to this Pokemon, so it self-KOs unless you have a Hero's Cape attached. But if you put these damage counters on something with an ability, it would also be KO'd immediately by Froslass. But even if it's not, you could pair it with Raichu. Collateral Bolts states that this attack does 50 damage to each Pokemon that has any damage counters on it, both yours and your opponent's except for this Pokemon. So if your opponent's Pokemon with abilities are on the bench, this Raichu would hit them. You could also try Hatterene VMAX. It has the Witch's Domain ability. Once during your turn, you may move up to 2 damage counters from your Pokemon to your opponent's active Pokemon. And so you're healing a Pokemon while also making Froslass's job easier if it has any abilities on it. And if it doesn't, then you're hitting a Pokemon that doesn't have any abilities, obviously, so you can just damage it normally. And it really helps if you would pair this with Mimikyu. It has the worst gift attack. This attack does 10 damage for each damage counter on all of your opponent's Pokemon. So with Hatterene, in increasing the damage counters, you're actually doing more damage with Mimikyu, and Froslass is making your job easier there too. And next we have Vespiquen, the Phantom Queen attack. Put 3 damage counters on each of your opponent's bench Pokemon that have any damage counters on it. Once again, Froslass is damaging something. But even if it's not, because the opponent's Pokemon doesn't have an ability, you have Radiant Alakazam with the Painful Spoons ability. Once during your turn, you may move up to 2 damage counters from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another one of their Pokemon. So a Dracloak has an ability, so it's taking damage from Froslass, but a Dragapult does not. So move those counters to Dragapult and do damage to both, and of course the Vespiquen would hit both of them. You have Alolan Raticate with the Super Fang attack. Put damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon until its remaining HP is 10, and it does not self-destruct unlike Claydol. With Ting-Lu, you have the ability Cursed Land. As long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, your opponent's Pokemon in play that have any damage counters on them have no abilities, except for Pokemon EX. So as long as Froslass is damage-free, you can shut down things like Baxcalibur. And if you hit it with something like Alolan Raticate or Claydol, the Landscoop attack, which states put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's benched Pokemon, can instantly KO it. You also have Altaria EX with the Humming Heal ability. Once during your turn, you can heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon. So if your Froslass is damaged, just get rid of it so your opponent can't KO it. But then you also have Noivern EX with Covert Flight. During your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from basic Pokemon. So you're not only attack locking them, but you're also dealing damage with Froslass at the same time. Then you have Hisuian Braviary with the Eerie Cry attack. It's a free attack that puts 3 damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon that have any damage counters on it. So you pair it with Radiant Alakazam, and all of a sudden you're dealing with a spread deck doing damage to the entire board at once. You can also pair Froslass with Raticate. The second bite attack does 30 plus. This attack does 30 more damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. So if the active Pokemon's an ability Pokemon, it's gaining damage, of course, and so Raticate's going to have an easier time taking a KO. But for all these, ladies and gentlemen, I find that Munkidori is easily the best partner for Froslass. It has the Adrena Brain ability. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon has any dark energy attached, you may move up to 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon, whether on the bench or in the active. The basic strategy is to play 2 Froslass and 1 Munkidori, maybe 2, but you certainly want to have 2 in your deck, and because it takes damage between turns, you'll have at least 3 damage counters on each Munkidori for spreading onto your opponent's Pokemon. In this way, not only does it heal your Pokemon, but it acts as a non-attacking supporter. Almost any deck could benefit from it if it has the space. Now let's move on to the trainers. First, we got the Buddy-Buddy Poffin. Search your deck for 2 basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less to put them onto your bench. This is to get the Snorunt, which is the first form of Froslass, onto the bench right away. Once you do that, you have Hyper Aroma. Search your deck for up to 3 Stage 1 Pokemon. Reveal them and put them into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. Then you have Arven. Search your deck for an item card and a Pokemon tool card. This is just to get the 2 previous cards into play. Then you have Irida. This might be the preferred card for supporters for Froslass, and it certainly replaces Salvatore. Search your deck for a water Pokemon and an item card. Reveal them, put them into your hand, and shuffle your deck. This is to get Froslass on the very next turn after you put Snorunt into play. But you also have Candace. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. Reveal any number of water Pokemon and water energy cards you find there. Put them into your hand. So you can get multiple Snorunt and multiple Froslass. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. What did I miss? Where am I wrong? Please leave a comment. Take care of yourselves. And may God hold you in the palm of his hand.